Hunter, the Texas-Mexico border is making national headlines on multiple fronts today.
A federal judge blocked a controversial Texas border law that was set to take effect in just a few days. Meantime, both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump visited the border within the last few hours today. We'll start with that ruling on the law Governor Greg Abbott signed last year. The law would allow local and state law enforcement to arrest people who they believe crossed into Texas illegally. It would also allow judges to order migrants to be transported to ports of entry on the southern border, regardless of their country of origin. It was set to take effect on March the 5th. Today's ruling stops that from happening for now. The state immediately appealed the judge's decision. Today, Governor Abbott said he will not back down from his fight to protect Texas from what he calls President Biden's border crisis. Now, U.S. District Judge David Ezra issued the opinion and was appointed by former President Ronald Reagan back in 1988. He called the bill's constitutionality into question, saying it would conflict with certain aspects of federal immigration law.
Now, the judge made his decision in the hours before President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump both visited different parts of the Texas-Mexico border. President Biden went to Brownsville, while former President Trump went to Eagle Pass. That's about 325 miles between the two. Both the current and former president met with personnel who are working on the border and got briefings from officials who see what's happening at the border firsthand. President Joe Biden said he was told Border Patrol and other agencies on the border are working under tough conditions and desperately need more resources. Because of that, he says it's time for Congress to pass border legislation, and he criticized Republicans for preventing a bipartisan border bill from reaching his desk. President Biden also had a message for former President Trump.
Instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know it's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen. So instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done?
Now, at the same time, former President Trump was joined by Governor Greg Abbott at the border. They spoke with people who are working the border as well. Former President Trump applauded the state's border enforcement efforts while criticizing the Biden administration.
This is a Joe Biden invasion. This is a Biden invasion over the past 3 years. I call him Crooked Joe because he's crooked. He's a terrible president, the worst president our country's ever had, probably the most incompetent president we've ever had.
Reporters asked Governor Abbott if he had a message for President Biden. He said he would tell him the same thing he told him when the president visited El Paso last year. Back then, Governor Abbott handed the president a list of strategies to secure the border. The governor says he's not heard from the president since then.